Welcome to Earthsayers podcast series, a program that amplifies the voices of people who care about life on Earth. This weekly series shares the voices of transformational leaders, offering conversations to deepen learning and spark action in today's challenging times. These discussions are framed by the UN's 17 Sustainable Development Goals, from ending poverty to protecting the planet. Leaders in film, sustainability advocacy, and change agents discuss their work and the personal challenges they have met and overcome during their careers. Let's get started and enjoy today's podcast.
Welcome to another exciting venture of Earthsayers Cinema. We're all about sustainability, people, planet, and prosperity. And today we're going to speak with the producer of the film Greener Pastures. Looking forward to seeing that trailer. So here it is.
The trouble with farming is the decisions are made with the heart instead of the head. Right now is a bad time to be in the agriculture business.
You know, just because it's not winter does not mean that our farm families aren't questioning their future.
There's something going on with Mother Nature. I would actually call it climate shift.
It's messing with my livelihood. It's extremely stressful.
Factory farms are running family farmers out of business.
Family farms used to support their communities, and they are just not there anymore.
I'm going to have to sell the cows. It's either that or lose everything.
I've honestly had myself convinced that I'm no longer an alcoholic.
Really? How's that going for you?
We're not going away without a fight. We're hopeful.
We can win it.
I know we can.
Start fighting for sobriety. Fight for your life.
I am fighting for my life.
It's not easy to admit you need help.
So what do we need to do to change this? And then it dawned on me, I'm going to have a nonprofit.
I look back on everything my parents had fought for. If we don't carry on, there would be a lot lost.
No, I think it'll all pan out just fine.
I'm seeing growth in you. I love it.
You know, we can't control the climate, we can't control the prices, but we can control our attitudes.
No matter how bad things are, we'll get through it. There's always room for miracles. You still got Mom and I.
That's why you're a preacher. You preach at me all my life.
Ian Kibbe, thank you for being on this with us. We really appreciate it. And the reason we really wanted to interview you, we talk a lot about the sustainable guidelines for the UN, and your film hit the bill on many things: no poverty, no hunger, good health, good jobs, economic growth, reduced inequalities, and sustainable communities. So those are the factors that we're looking at, and we're really grateful that you made this film. I know films are such a labor of love, and I just want to thank you for making the film, and wanted to hear you come up with some praise for the people that actually keep us alive. Small farmers are, I guess, what, 89% of all farmers. They produce maybe 20% of our stuff, but
right.
What was that like being with those people?
Yeah, well, and I think that gratitude is one of the reasons we made this film, right? Just to kind of back up, the impetus for this film started with a USDA statistic that came out in 2018 that showed that farmers had the highest rate of suicide of any occupation in the country. Now they've revised that a little bit, how they define farm workers, but the rates are still astronomical. And I think that was a surprise when I heard that number, and I know for Sam, the director, as well, was just sort of shocking to hear. I think we have such a romantic notion of what small farming has been, and there have been a lot of films that have sort of contributed to that show sort of some of the nicer sides of farming. But to your point, these are the people who play a huge role in our in sustaining us, right, and feeding us. And so for us, it was really an exploration. Well, what's going on in these farm communities that's contributing to this mental health crisis, and how are they? Who are the people that are working to improve mental health in the communities? What does that look like? I had done some work in rural, a film about rural communities, not about farming, but I knew some of the challenges about isolation, geographic isolation, and sort of the difficulty of providing services in rural settings. Um, so yeah, this began as what is happening to these people who we owe so much to, and we're remain incredibly grateful and been incredibly inspired by the people that we met, those who appeared in the film and those who we met along the way. I mean, anytime you ask someone to let you put them in the documentary, it's a pretty daunting task, right? You're asking a lot of them. And 201, the farmers and the families that we were with were just incredibly open. I think they understood the sort of stakes in their own personal lives, and I think in farm communities in general. Whether they were dealing with addiction or bankruptcy, financial challenges, changes in policy, trying to keep up with changing policy, or had a history of suicide in their families. I think they all understood why we were making this film, and were really on board, and made it easy and made it, a lot of times fun to do. As but you're still in the trenches when you're making a film as they are.
Yeah, the physical, emotional, spiritual costs of farming are the stressors that farmers face. But it seems that the economic risks and the lack of financial returns are the crisis. So how is this going to be sustainable?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I think we're still, what, 2 years, 3 years behind on getting a farm bill passed again, right? And now even more changes in the current administration around, how subsidies are doled out. Some major changes are happening there. SNAP benefits, right? Which, aid, all of those things impact our farmers, right? Who produce the food for our grocery stores and for people across the seas. And so, unfortunately, it hasn't gotten easier in the last 6 months, or since we made the film. I'm not smart enough to solve the economic problems of farming, myself. But I think that we have seen, I think, since COVID, a lot greater understanding from people about where their food comes, a greater desire to know where their food is coming from, greater interest in small farms. And whether that's like attending their local farmers market or taking farm tours. And I think we've also seen farmers better adapt to sort of like the current realities. I mean, farmers are nothing if not very resourceful and very resilient. And so, whether that's adopting online sales and shipping directly to people, there have been some improvements and some changes. But I can't say that it's better now than it was. I think a lot of small farmers are still really struggling.
Well, everyone is grousing about the food prices, but are the farmers getting any of this money in terms of the increase? It seems like maybe they're not. I mean, there was one statistic there about how dairy farmers haven't had a raise in 20 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think the challenge is there's still a lot of people involved between the farmers and us, right? Anytime you can go directly to a farmer and pay them directly for food, you are that is of greater economic benefit to farmers. Now that's challenging for a lot of people in a lot of places. Again, geographic distance makes that tough. But it's like the systems in between where those prices increase. And I think where we're most vulnerable in terms of our food supply, right? I mean, during the pandemic, remember you'd have a plant shut down, a meat processing plant shut down, right? And what would that do to shelves? And what would that do to prices? And again, the shorter you can make the connection between you and where your food comes from, typically that's better economically for the farmers. It's usually healthier for you, right? You're not getting food that's been processed as much. And it's sort of like a win-win-win all around. You know, I encourage people to think more closely. Now, it takes more than just people like thinking better about their food, but when they can, um, to to spend and shop in places where there is a relationship. You know, I'm fortunate to have a grocery store near me that has relationships with several farms where so I know that the meat I'm getting, I know that the produce I'm getting, there's a relationship built between that grocery store and the farmers. Now I also have two young kids. I can't buy all of my food that way all of the time, right? Whether or not I'm traveling or doing something different, but um, you know, it is a situation where every bit does help.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm not smart enough to solve all of the policy challenges that small farmers face, though.
Uh, Seems that this whole element of sustainability
Hmm.
and the monies that are given from the Farm Bill
Hmm.
have to do with supporting people to grow monocrops. You know what I mean?
Mm. Hmm.
And that means, tilling and, putting herbicides and pesticides in and stuff like that. Uh, when you were doing the film, was there much discussion about regenerative farming? Because I guess they save a lot of money by doing that. And I mean, where else could they possibly cut their costs?
Yeah, I mean there has been. I think it's particularly depending on where you are. Like I know in Iowa, Iowa State has a really robust regenerative agriculture like discipline and practice, and so there are certain farmers in Iowa who are maybe a little bit more on the nose. But I think that information has also traveled a lot. I think there are a lot more farmers who are looking at regenerative practices. Um, Now there's an irony because most of those practices date back to like indigenous farming practices, right? They are a lot of the things that people are talking about are things we're sort of like rediscovering that
What is old is new.
right, what is old is new, exactly. Um, so I do think you see on some small farms, and that provides, I think, some farmers sort of a niche in the market, right, to be able to use that. And you can save money, and you can produce, you know, better food over the long run, and you know, create better soil. The Midwest is really struggling with its topsoil health, the health of its soil. So there's a lot to be gained from regenerative agricultural practices. And I do think that more and more people are looking at some of those ways, whether, you know, trying to become totally regenerative or just introducing certain practices into their farming.
Have you found that crop subsidies are of any benefit to small farmers?
This is a tough one too, right? Because what is a small farm? What qualifies as a small farm?
Like
What is a
under
family farm? What is a
500
large farm?
acres or something?
It changes. It changes depending, right? And that language can be easily co-opted. But the truth is that most subsidies still go to our largest producers. So not our small farmers, right? I think Jay in the film talks about, you know, he has a dairy farm and you know, he talks about his check being, you know, $400 for, you know, 6 months or something, right? So that's not offsetting his costs at all. So yeah, the way that subsidies are paid out is still um, that certainly not benefiting our smallest farmers and those who are able and interested in producing food that uh, maybe tastes a little better and is a little better for you.
Yeah. Well, I know that the stresses of farming are many. I mean, if you
Hmm.
look at morbidity and mortality rates, I mean, these people, they have just a killer schedule. Plus, they get exposure to herbicides and pesticides.
Mm.
And higher rates of heart disease and cancer and stuff like that. But I mean, I'm thinking a lot of this has to do with the financial pressure. And that gets right back to the
Hmm.
idea of the suicidality
Hmm.
rates, which, if not the highest, are too high, obviously. And the pressures of trying to do industrial farming as opposed to maybe more local farming or
Mm-hmm.
farming without all of the equipment that it takes to spread herbicides and pesticides and the whole tillage. I guess tillage is really getting super out of fashion, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know that from the 1930s. It's coming back again. It's just not practical, you know, in
Mm-hmm.
terms of nurturing the soil. The soil, if you don't keep putting nitrogen back into it, uh,
Right.
it's going to be fallow. I mean, it's not going to be productive, and otherwise you have to just induce it with fertilizer, you know, which
Right.
is expensive. So I think
Which just means
skipping the
the next year
expense
you have to
and
use more fertilizer. Yeah, the
skipping the
more inputs you
expense
use, the more
somehow,
inputs you
yeah.
need.
I mean, I think, and then you have a scene about this one woman who's just trying to survive. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's just too impossible, and it's just bringing her down.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, all of those pressures. I mean, you named a lot of the stressors that we're talking about, right? And I think, again, I think isolation has a lot to do with this, right? Um, Everything from, the isolation of being in person to a lack of broadband in a lot of rural communities, right? That it can be isolating, and difficult for there to be services provided. Uh, and then I think, there's also just farmers feel like they should be able to, because they are so many farmers are so able to overcome so many challenges, right? They again resourceful, resilient, and then I think when certain challenges that are kind of beyond their control arise, like um, the economic policies that make farming very difficult, right? And so when you face bankruptcy or face having to maybe sell your land, um, those those are deeply personal. They feel deeply personal. If you are a
Yeah, I mean,
multi-generational
if your great
landowner,
grandfather, gave
right?
it to you, it's like I
Yep.
failed, I failed. It's like no, the system
Yeah.
failed on you. You went with you thought what was best.
Hmm.
And question is, if it's not working now, why are you still doing it? Is there something else out there? I mean, what's the inducement to stay, and what's the inducement to change? You know?
Yeah, well, I think the inducement to stay is that a lot of farmers love the work that they do, right? It's really hard work, and there are so many aspects of it that are out of your control. We haven't even started talking about the climate, right? And sort of the rise of extreme weather events and the challenges that those pose to crops. Um, you know, it's tough. I think it's just tough to kind of keep going. But if you love what you're doing and you love the land that you're on and you want it, to see it maintained, that's the inducement to stay for a lot of these folks.
Right, but you have to have some economic reward because I mean, if you're $300,000
Yeah,
in the hole to the bank, and you get 2 feet of rain when you put your crops in, uh-oh,
yeah,
you're in
yeah.
big trouble. I mean, your whole thing's going to go down. What did you have to mortgage your land to do that? And now you have no way of growing anything. Now you're
Hmm.
out. You
Right.
know, it's wicked. It's cruel.
Well, and I think now one of the things that a story I was reading, haven't read recently is, and I'm going to butcher it. I should have done more of my research again, but um, let me see if I can pull it up. USDA contract. You can cut this part from the interview. Um,
Mhm.
oh yes, so the funding freeze and the cancellation of USDA contracts, right? Um, and so farmers have gone into certain agreements with USDA and with the government, believing that they were going to be paid for the work that they're doing. They've started the work, they've paid for the seed. I think this connects to sort of some of the USAID and the SNAP conversation, SNAP um, changes that we're seeing right now. And it's sort of a dereliction of duty on the government, but the farmers are left holding the bag again.
Yeah, yeah.
And so again, like
Some of them going to go
it,
down with the ship.
it's really unfortunate. And
Did they not have a contract? You know what I mean?
well, I don't think that contracts necessarily mean the same thing to this administration that
Ah,
they mean outside of this administration,
yeah, when I signed the
unfortunately.
contract, I didn't actually mean that.
Yeah, I mean,
You know what I mean?
not to get overly political, but this president has a long history of backing out of contracts and paying people. Um, uh, so I can't even remember the original question, but I think that, I think it's, like I said, it's unfortunately hasn't gotten easier. And then I think, there, in terms of like the inducements to do something else, that's a big change. You're asking people to move, not just change livelihoods, but,
Somebody actually in your film did have to sell, and they moved to another
hmm
place,
hmm
which is a smaller place. They still love farming. They moved to another state, and
Yep.
the nut wasn't so hard that they couldn't crack it. You know what I mean? As opposed to being cracked by the financial pressure.
Right. Right. Now, but they also left a lot of their family, right? Several states behind. So
Or
again, yeah, you're right. These are the hard choices that we're asking our farmers
give
to have
up,
to make.
give up, your career, or just to say we got to move.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
hey, uh, look at all our relatives. Something happened, and they go, "We're going. We
Yeah.
got to move."
Unfortunately, I think a lot of people are asking themselves that question. Farmers and not farmers now, too, right? Sort
Okay,
of.
are you in the right spot? So,
Hmm
so let's talk a little bit more about the sustainability of small farming, and maybe not what's so much at stake, but why they deserve our love and support and cash flow, because it's what how is it better for us? How is it better for the economy?
Mm. For the economy or for which
For
part of
their,
us
I
do you
mean, to
mean?
keep having them around to grow stuff. That's the
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I think the reality is that, there is a certain level of industrial agriculture required to feed as many people as we have in the world, right? And there are certain practices in terms of large scale farming that we we've built a society around, right? Now, whether we want to unravel that, that's we'll save that, put that to the side for now. Um, but I think typically those on small farms, family farms, because you can have some larger farms that practice really great sustainable agricultural practice. Um, I think typically you're looking at food that is just better tasting. This is personal opinion. I'll just go on a personal opinion. You're looking at food that, again, relies on fewer inputs like fertilizers and herbicides, pesticides to grow oftentimes. Um, and again, when you buy that food where that money is going, it's not going through some third party necessarily to like, you know, um, it's not you're putting food on your table and you're putting money directly in the pockets of farmers,
right.
right? Um, and I think those are just sort of the easy reasons why,
Seems
you
like
know,
I just heard a figure that was like out of every dollar spent, 8 cents goes to the
yeah,
farmer.
right, exactly. Right now, if you're able to, and I think, people can, if they live in cities, encourage local markets to form those kinds of relationships. Like there's several markets in my area in Chicago that I've talked to, like, oh, yeah, we've looked into that, and next thing I know, they've got, Schlegel beef in their market. That's a farm near us. Um, so yeah, I think I can't again remember. I can't remember exactly where we started. Why is it sustainable? Why should we do this? It's sort of a win on all fronts, right? Because again, you typically are getting better food, better for your body, but less processing. You're better supporting farmers and the people who are better supporting their animals or their land.
It supports communities too.
And it supports communities. Yeah. I mean, one of the sad things that's happened is the industrialization of agriculture as small farms have disappeared is that these communities have been hollowed out, right? And so where you had, um, a lot of farmers living in a small area, and it supported the church, it supported the businesses, it supported the stores, and had that community. Well, now it's much more land, many fewer people, so those stores on Main Street don't have nearly as many people frequenting them, and so you see these communities sort of hollowed out. Um, I think, and the other thing is and then you have create food deserts. I think, Becky in the film talks about uh, being surrounded by farm country, but being in a food desert, right? Somewhere where she can't get food. She can't get the food that's, sort of being grown around her easily. Um, so it's kind of perverse consequence.
So you had I looked up your films and your journeys in film. How was that relationship founded, and how is that working for you, and how can people see this film?
Oh, Journeys in Film, they create educational content and do outreach support for documentary film. So they created our educational content working with us. They were a great partner to work with. I think they do awesome work. There's an educational curriculum. Um, so teachers can, if they wanted to show the film, they can kind of lead classroom discussions. There's a community discussion guide, same thing. It sort of helps organizers think about what sort of questions to ask. And to lead fruitful discussions. So they were great. And sorry, what was the second part of that question?
Well, I mean, and I think
And how can they see that? How can they see the film?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right now it's available for rent pretty much everywhere, right? On iTunes, Amazon, um, name your favorite flavor of streaming service, and you can rent it. Fortunately,
PBS.
PBS Passport. I believe it's still on PBS Passport right now. And they were a great partner. Independent Lens was a tremendous partner in distributing this film. That's ultimately where our film landed, and ultimately where we wanted it to land. We're really saddened by what's happened to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and what's going to be happening to rural radio stations around the country. I think that's the film starts with an interview on a rural radio station. Radio is a huge part of how rural communities get information and share information with each other. So really sad by that, but grateful for Independent Lens. So yes, PBS is a place you can watch it. And then also it is on Kinema, which is KINEMA. And they're a great platform if you are someone who wants to show the film to, your church group or an organization, or they are really helpful. You can get the screening guide there. So yeah, if you look up Greener Pastures at Kinema, and we've made our rates there, as low as we can, to make it possible for organizations and community groups to screen the film. So yeah.
That's excellent. Well, I'm really happy for you that you accomplished this mission, because it's hard.
Thank you. A lot of people involved to make it happen, as you know, Paul. In this
3, 4, 5 years getting this out.
Yeah. So we started in 2018. The film came out in 21. Was our festival premiere. So we definitely went through the pandemic era making some of this film. Fortunately, as one of the farmers says, like, we've been practicing social distancing. Farmers are always practicing social distancing, so that didn't slow us down too much. And yeah, still going strong. I feel like, for better and worse, it's still as relevant as it was 4 years ago.
Maybe more so even now.
Maybe more so now, yeah, with sort of the increased challenge. I'm happy to report all the farmers are all still doing well. Everyone's continued on kind of a path towards growth, and just really happy for them.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So eat your greens, eat your vegetable, eat your spinach and your broccoli.
Yeah, figure out where your food's coming from. Go to a farm tour. Go. Farmers, love it. Maybe don't just drive up honking the horn, but they love to talk about the work that they're doing, and always happy to have people out on their farms if you can get to one. Push your grocery stores to do more, and push yourself.
And bon appetit.
And push your legislators. Sorry, that's the last thing. Call your legislators. Tell them you care about the health of our small farms, and you want them to do better by our small farmers. They want a farm bill that makes sense for all farmers.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for what you're doing. And
thank you, Paul.
for allowing us at Earthshare Cinema to go into your back pages and look at all that you've learned about this. And
Thank you.
Were you a
This
city kid or a
you
rural
tested me,
kid?
Paul. There was more policy in this than I was expecting, but I appreciate it.
Well, something's got to change. I don't know that it's going to
Yeah.
be legislature, but I mean, I think the price of food is gonna go up, and maybe if you eat locally, it won't go up as high, or maybe instead of eating things out of boxes, you'll be,
Yeah.
you know, eat your
Well, at least
vegetables, Grandma
you'll
would
be
say.
doing more to keep that money in your own community,
Yeah,
right?
which is important because it circulates
Mm-hmm.
so many times.
Mm-hmm.
So we're really
Yeah.
grateful for your work. Thank you for what you're doing. God bless the farmers, and let's keep going in the right direction.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Paul. Really appreciate it. And thank you all. Take care.